It is impossible to imagine the turmoil that surrounds the emancipation of the first nation of slaves, the Exodus, the Jewish people going free. But what we do know is that it was such an important event that the Torah dedicates many, many more verses relating to the Exodus than it does to the creation of the world itself. And not only that, when God gives us our first national commandment, which was to bring the Paschal offering, it was rooted in proclaiming time and to announce the new moon and the first month of the year. And God says, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim, now, Nisan, the month of the liberation of our people, the month of the Exodus, is now the beginning of time. Not creation, but emancipation. So that when the Torah says the fourth month or the fifth month or the first month, it's rooted in the month of Nisan, the month in which we were set free. How could it be that an event in history, such as the Exodus, can supersede the advent of history, the creation of the world? Surely that is a much more powerful beginning that we need to recognize in our lives. And the Torah even now states that many of the commandments that relate to bettering the world and caring for one another is because we were slaves in Egypt and we were freed. More so than because God created the world. How could it be that emancipation, freedom, the Exodus, is now more important than creation itself? Well, creation was powerful. And when God created Adam and Eve, he put us in the garden and he said, and you'll rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the heaven. I've given you the world. It is in your hand. You can make this world a more godly place. You can utilize all the resources of the world to improve the world, to make the world a kinder place, a more gentle place, to bring about a world that is filled with the Garden of Eden. But that's not what happened. In a short amount of time, we lost the garden. For a short amount of time, there was murder, there was corruption that settled in, and generation after generation, all the way until the moment that Pharaoh enslaved the Jewish people, it reached rock bottom. Because now human beings were not just utilizing the world, they were utilizing other human beings. Human beings became slaves of others. God said, this is the rock bottom. Obviously, we've lost the plot. This is not what I created the world for. We need a new beginning. And the new beginning is going to be an emancipation of my people with a mission and a purpose to receive the Torah and to now rebuild the lost Garden of Eden. And that's why the second beginning becomes even more important than creation, because potential, the birth of ourselves, of the world, is important. But it doesn't guarantee that we're going to live a life that is filled with values. We need a second beginning, such as a bar mitzvah, when we enter into our commitment to the mitzvahs of the world and of the Torah, that we now begin anew, committed to building, committed to values, wanting to make a difference in the world. A birthday in itself does not guarantee that we have a valued life. We need to be focused on marching to Sinai and then using the world to rebuild the garden. This Shabbat, we talk about all of these events and the second beginning, the second pillar that becomes even more important than the first. But it is also a date in our calendar, Yud Shvat, in which the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, completed his work in this world, and the role of leader of the Chabad movement and Rebbe was handed over to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And in a seminal discourse that was left by the previous Rebbe to be handed out on the date that he was to leave this world, he speaks about Bosi Legani, I've come to my garden. And the discourse talks about how we, you and I, can be involved in rebuilding the garden of Hashem. We need to have a purpose, we need to have a meaning, and we have the ability to work towards redemption and bringing Mashiach and making the world once again the garden it was intended to be. May Hashem give us the opportunity to utilize the important moments in time, the significance of time, to commit ourselves to the pillar of responsibility, education, values, commitment to building, which is even more important than the advent of life itself. Have a beautiful Shabbos. May we experience peace, tranquility, and a world that is redeemed. Good Shabbos.